This is Chicago's very own WGN Saturday Morning News.
Coming up, we're talking to some doctors working to change the stigma behind post-traumatic stress disorder.
Injury has many forms. Breaking your leg would be treated like an injury. You would see a doctor and get an x-ray. But what happens when you have emotional trauma? Would you just walk it off? Push your feelings to the side? Ignore it. It can change the brain, and that change can be seen, just like a broken leg. And just like a broken leg, PTSI can be treated. Help us change the name from PTSD to PTSI.
That video is coming from a nonprofit organization called Erase PTSD Now. It's working to remove the stigma around the PTSD by classifying it as an injury. Joining us today, Dr. Eugene Lipov and Dr. Frank Ochberg. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Do appreciate it.
Thank you
for having us.
Dr. Lipov, let's start with you. Let's talk about the stigma around mental health in general and around PTSD.
So I have been following Dr. Ochberg's work for years. So I've had the honor to take care of all type of patients. Recently, I've been doing a lot of work with special forces like Green Berets and Delta Force. And what those soldiers uniformly tell me is that the stigma, having the term PTSD or disorder, really prevents people from seeking care, which potentially could lead to fatalities. So I recently did a review asked 3,000 people what they thought would happen if the name could be changed. And there was a significant showing that if the name could be changed from PTSD to PTSI, that would lead people to remove the stigma and they would seek care. That's pretty straightforward.
Dr. Ochberg, I find it fascinating when people will, that video was put it right on the nail on the head, and that is people who break a leg have no problems, no qualms about going to the doctor to get that put into a cast. But when we do have any type of mental illness or mental health situation, we're a lot less reticent to go to the doctor and try to get some help.
Exactly. More reticent. And it was the Vice Chief of Staff of the U.S. Army who recognized this. He's sending men into battle, and they come back, and they have flashbacks. They also have something that a lot of us don't realize. They feel that they carry a black cloud around with them, so they won't go to a daughter's christening. They won't go to a happy event because they believe they're bringing the gloom along. Now, I think we did a good job. I was part of that 45 years ago. We called it PTSD then because we didn't realize that disorder would be stigmatizing.
Right.
And now we do, and it's high time the doctors who created that label change it to PTSI for injury. I think we have a majority. They're slow to get there. Conversations like this help enormously. Do you know that 49 states out of the 50 states have changed their state celebration day from PTSD Awareness Day to PTSI Awareness Day? If the states can do it, why can't my colleagues in the American Psychiatric Association do it? What you're doing by having us here now is going to help. I think the public who cares about this can ask their doctors, their influential people, pay attention to this. Also, this condition is very widespread. Back when we invented the label, we thought it would be very few people who qualified. Now we're finding you live long enough, it happens to you.
We don't have a lot of, I'm sorry about the Dr. Ochberg.
No,
we don't have a lot
go
of time left, and I want to touch on this because while your focus in what you're just saying and in your work initially was for veterans who have seen battle, this can apply to so many other people who have never been on a battlefield of an actual war, people who work in first responders, people who live in neighborhoods that are prone to violence. A lot of people are walking around with this PTSI.
Gene, you want to go first?
Yeah, if you don't mind, it's totally true. In fact, the most common group of people who have PTSI is abused women. It is a very large number of people. It's not first responders. It's not what you think of classic trauma. But even being ignored for a long time, being starved, not hurt physically, can cause PTSI. And it could ruin lives forever unless you treat it. And there are treatments available currently.
It is a fascinating conversation and one that we could talk about for days on end. Doctors, thank you so much. Do appreciate your time and your expertise this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can find more information on the push to change PTSD to PTSI on Dr. Lipov's website. That's drugenelipov.com. There's also a link there to purchase a pin to show your support. You can also follow him on social media.